Force is hoping that Jim White doesn't have those speed secret cylinder heads back on. They've had a crew working full-time since the second round trying to get them ready again. We don't know. And they're not saying. They want John Force certainly to think they're capable of another 288-mile-an-hour blast. Beautiful start. The kids cheering Daddy on, but it's not enough. The big numbers are back for Jim White. 5:27, 283 miles per hour. Force losing at a 5:33, 272. Jubilation on the starting line. Jim White, the U.S. National Champion.
For all practical purposes, the cars leave the line dead even. Both of these drivers were up for this tremendous race. The adrenaline was flowing. As the cars start to move down course, it seems like it's going to be an even race. But the Jim White car begins to make that traditional horsepower that it has displayed all weekend long and stretches the win out to a full car length.
How does it feel to win your first ever U.S. Nationals?
God, I can't even start. What a dream. I mean, a dream. It's something that you just, when you're a kid, you just grow up thinking that it could happen, and it only happens to a couple of guys like a Don Perdome or somebody big like that.
You're big now.
What a thrill.
You turned the air conditioning on at half track. Did that distract you at all when the hatch blew off?
I knew it was going to blow off. When we made the burnouts and I stopped and I flipped it forward, it broke the hinge. And I saw it, so I backed up as quick as I could. The guys, I'd let them take a look at it and see if they needed to fix something. They just closed it like normal, and away we went.
Could it be said now that the speed secret cylinder heads that were missing in the semis were back on for the final?
That could be said.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve.
So.
It truly is a battle of the crew chiefs at this point. The two drivers, once they stand on the throttle, can do nothing about making additional power. But for Austin Coyle or Wes Cerny and Roland Leong, it is the combination they have dialed into this car as they come up to stage that will make the difference between the power output. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 horsepower out of each of these engines. And for the third race in a row, Jim White just drives away from John Force with the fastest speed ever recorded by a funny car. 289.94 miles an hour. Jim White establishes a new national record. He ran a 5:18 on the run. Look in replay. White in the near lane in the Hawaiian Punch Dodge Daytona just obliterates Force. As they passed the halfway point, that's when the horsepower took hold. Look at White accelerate away with more than a car length daylight. White, the victor.
See that smoke? This baby is cooking. 5:18. But let me tell you what, a new speed record, 289.94.
Wow. Thank you, Don. Wes told me that we've just been babying with this thing all day. We put a blower on the semis, as you remember. He said, let's just put a little nitro in it, run it to the finish line this time for the first time. I congratulate Wes Cerny. What a great, great crew chief. The whole team, we changed rear ends twice today. We had a little problem with our rear ends, and the guys just jumped right in there. Rick Castle and Dave Leahy and Brian and Wayne, those guys just really work hard. Roland has put together probably the finest team the Hawaiian Punch group has ever seen. We want to always thank our sponsors, Hawaiian Punch and Mopar Performance, and all the good guys that help allow us to do what we get to do and have a lot of fun at it.
We'll just keep her in the winner's circle.
Thank you, Don. Thanks a lot.
Right now we've got dry track and sunny skies for the final between John Force and Jim White to settle the Nitro Funny Car champion. Don Garlitz, what do you think?
Well, both cars hurt them pretty much on the last round. We saw a lot of smoke out of the Hawaiian, a lot of smoke out of John Force. Now, they don't usually like to run the cars like that because they fall off right in that last few hundred feet of the race, which could cost you. Now, the question is, which crew took the most out to try to preserve the engine?
To try to get it all 1,320 feet.
Exactly.
All right, well, we're about to find out. A lot of raw fuel coming out of the pipes. The shadow's getting a little longer here. You can actually see some of the exhaust header fire. They're in. Everybody getting lots of traction. It is John Force with a slower elapsed time. When Austin Coyle doesn't give him the power, John Force wins anyway with sheer driving. A 5:36 for Force defeats a 5:35 for Jim White. Let's go to Don Garlits with the winning crew chief.
It looks to me like the driver saved you guys again.
Well, that's what a driver's supposed to do. That's why them guys get all the glory and most of the money.
Well, Force earned a bunch of it right on the starting line, Big Daddy. He drilled White on the lights, but White wouldn't give up, and as Steve said, ran a better ET, but still lost the race.
Well, Austin Coyle and John Force must have talked about detuning the car a little bit to save it on end. He probably had a lot more damage than we noticed. Anyway, he made it up on the starting line and beat White to the end by a full car length.
John Force has matured, in my opinion, into the finest funny car driver in the sport today. John, whatever it takes, you do. You needed to leave on him. You left on him. You won with a slower elapsed time. You did it, bud.
I got the greatest team.
They got the greatest driver.
Austin Coyle. I do okay. The best sponsors, Jolly Rancher, Castro, Wax Shop, Easy Wider. All these people supported me and poured the money in and supported me all the years that we were terrible. But I got to say, my family, my kids are here. We're on vacation for a week and leaving here, and it's just great. I'm glad to be here, and you know, what can I say? We're moving up in them points, and even Mike Dunn come over. Got to hand it to them. Them guys are great because they love the sport, and their kids played with my kids all weekend and come over and he wished me luck in the family. And if I got to lose to somebody, I want to lose to those kind of people because they're the greatest. I want to say something. Gary Ornsby, until you get well and get back here, I'm going to keep trying to win. I swear to God I am.
John Force, funny car champion, the Jolly Rancher Candies Northwest Nationals.
You're watching as Roland gets his final instructions to White. The low qualifier here, the quick car in the previous round, that gave him the lane choice. He has selected this particular lane, feeling it will give him the most traction and the most possibilities for a win. But remember, Mike Dunn has been the picture of consistency. 3 consecutive 5:37s in the previous round. Tremendous race, and it is Mike Dunn with the victory. 5:34 at 275 miles an hour. Oh, so close was Jim White at a 5:39, falling off pace a little bit in the speed department at only 263. Let's watch again. There was a very slight advantage at the start for Mike Dunn, but his dad, Jim Dunn, had set that car up perfectly. Look, no tire smoke at all. The car just glued to the pavement. As they neared the finish line, White made a charge. At this point, they're almost even. Each driver can see the other. And then right at the speed trap, it is Mike Dunn and the victory.
Mike Dunn snickering under his helmet as he's the one who punched out Jim White. Great job, and what a race.
Oh, it was a good race. I knew Jim. We knew he was going to be tough. They've had that Hawaiian car run real well all weekend, and but you know, the Snicker Kmart Mopar, it stepped up and ran good when it needed to.
Your dad used a light hand on this car all weekend. Maybe that's what won it for you.
Well, we had a light hand the first round, and then we had a problem with the dropping cylinder the second round. We found a problem in the clutch to where it, we felt that it would help it out in the final. I don't know what it ran. It felt halfway decent, and it helped us. We didn't want to get too crazy on it. We just obviously wanted to win the race.
And you have cut John Force's points lead in half, from 9 to about 450.
Well, that's the best part about it, and it's you know, we've got a long way to go, and anything can happen. And you know, I just want to thank the crew, my dad, Jim Dunn, Walt, Steve, Sandy, Diane, my wife, Sandy.
A great champion, Mike Dunn. He could go all the way this year.
Mark Oswald in the near lane. Force in the far lane. Tremendous difference in the previous round. Remember, it was Force who had problems before. But there were none here. By 7/1000ths of a second, John Force has taken the title of the Quaker State North Star Nationals. His elapsed time, 5.40 to a losing 5:44. Oswald having the advantage off the starting line as we watch in replay. You can see it unfold. It did not take long for John Force to pull alongside of Oswald. And then, with no problems like he had in the final four, Force just motored on to the finish line to take a very close victory and extend his lead in the Winston Championship. Let's go to the far end and Steve.
You know, you can't even snap your fingers in 7/1000ths of a second, but that was your margin of victory, John Force, over Mark Oswald. What a battle.
Steve, it was a close race. I looked out the window, and I'm saying put her to the next cone, but she was nosing over just a little bit. I thought she's running out of steam, don't lift, and right when I clicked her in the light, he come through. I didn't know who won it. I got to put it, this team, Coyle and his guys, they put it together again. They're consistent. I honestly didn't know. I was looking to read you guys' faces to see if we won.
That close.
Hey, I want to take a minute here to thank all my sponsors, Castrol and Jolly Rancher and the Wax Shop and Autolite, everybody that supports this team, and especially my biggest supporter in my family here, Austin Coyle, and the group.
Celebrate.
Thank you.